morning, my friends. It feels like a massive relief finally being able to just show this car on the channel willy-nilly and not worry about it. Piston and I are about to head to the shop. Yes, I do bring my dog for rides in the Lambo. He's been good so far. He's been good in all the cars. But we are about to head to the shop and do our first mods on the Huracan today, which I'm very, very excited for. Now I do put this really, really nice, like, thick cover down. He usually sleeps on the floor anyway, but if he does want to pop up on the seat, I really don't want him chewing on the freaking Huracan seat. So this thing is nice. Let's go, bud. Come on. Piston, sit. Sit. Good boy. So my first mod of choice on the Lamborghini Huracan is a set of lowering springs. And I'm going with the Swift springs. I think they're made specifically for Vivid Racing because that's where I ordered them from. And it literally says on the box right here, Swift Springs, Vivid Racing, Lamborghini Huracan. The Swifts lower it 1.1 in the rear, 0.8 up front. Now the Huracan sits quite a bit higher in the back from the factory than it does in the front. So that's the reason I decided to go with these Swift springs. Now, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I'm a little bit nervous. The only supercar I've ever worked on is the new NSX. I just did the brake pads, changed all the fluids on that. And that was relatively simple, but I've never touched the Huracan, a Lambo, in my life. So let's hope I don't mess anything up. Should look good by the end of the day. Here's how the car currently sits. Let's do a quick measurement before, write that down, and see if these Swift springs truly lower it as much as they say. So the gap from the factory, let's go the wheel to the fender is 5 inches, not the tire, but the wheel to the fender. 5 inches in the rear. Oh yeah, 3 3/4 up front. If we look at it from the side, straight side profile, it's definitely quite a bit higher in the rear. Let's get her on the lift. Quick announcement, listen up if you want to win this girl for $3. So as you guys know, I recently got my new Duramax, and I was undecided as to what I was going to do with the old Duramax. This is my 2015. I've had it for 4 years now. Initially, I was actually going to trade it in to the dealer on my new one. Decided not to do that. Then I was going to sell it, and then I decided, let's just go ahead and give it away to one of you guys. So every $3 you spend on the website equals 1 entry to win this truck. Now it's a beautiful rig. 2015 6-inch lift, 35s on 22x14s. She has always treated me so freaking well, and it is quite literally the perfect tow rig for when your car breaks down. First link down below, every $3 you spend is 1 entry to win the 2015 Duramax. After spending like literally 20 minutes trying to find the proper jack points and jack locations, I think I finally found them based off a photo online. Before I lift it up in the air, I'm gonna go ahead and crack loose the lug bolts, I guess you would call them, not lug nuts. And it takes a T80 Torx bit. So all of the lug bolts are loose. Let's lift her up. How the freak does this work? So this car does have the front lift option. Guessing that is some sort of airbag, like an aftermarket airlift kit would utilize something like this. So I'm not sure if I need to pull that front strut with it aired up or aired down, because it's currently aired up. I feel like if I do one tiny thing wrong on this car, it's gonna be like a gazillion dollars to fix. So I gotta be a little bit careful today. So to get to the top of our front strut, I'm pretty sure we need to remove the fender liners. I tried to do some research online. There's not really any tutorials, so I'm just gonna be out here winging it today. But it's not like a Evo or a Subaru or any other traditional car where you would pop the hood and go from the top. I'm pretty sure on this, we gotta pull the fender liners, and there's about 1 million screws. So I have all of the fender liners removed, and now I'm gonna tackle removing the front strut. So the complicated thing up front is the airlift system. We have an airline here, looks like a wiring connector back there, and then there'll be a bolt up top, looks like 18 mil, and same on the bottom, 18 mil there as well. For the airline, looks like a 10 mil nut, and I'm pretty sure we're just gonna go ahead and loosen this guy up, and it should unthread from the top of the strut. I could be wrong. Okay, so this guy's coming out. There we go. That is disconnected. And then this wiring connector back here, let's see here. Unplug that, pop it off of the body. And now all we have left is that top and the lower bolt. Both bolt and nut is an 18 mil. After a bit of finagling, looks like the strut is ready to come out. Here's the deal in the rear. There is one wiring connector. If you just pop up the engine glass, the engine cover, you can easily access that. So I'll show you what that looks like when I get the strut out. You have the 18 mil bolt right there. Initially, I figured we would have to remove these intake air ducts, but you do not, as there is space right through here to pull the bolt through. And then to get this lower bolt out, we do need to remove this little guy right here, which I believe is for the headlight level. So pretty similar to the front, here is the wiring connector I was talking about earlier. All four are removed. Now we need to figure out how in the heck do we get these springs off. So I went ahead and took the time to figure out how that first shock or strut comes apart. I tell you what, man, you have to pull off these wiring connectors. In order to do that, of course, you got to depin this thing. The first one I probably spent literally 2 to 3 hours on, and I'm ashamed to say I did kind of mess up the connector. It should still be usable, I hope, because I don't really see a place where I could get those ordered up. But now that I know how it works, it really takes about 2 seconds. So of course that first purple guy has to come out. In order to get that out, you have to push it. If you're looking at it like this, you got to push it to the bottom of the connector and then simply grab some needle nose pliers and pull it out. And then you have to put a depinning tool on both sides of the pin to compress the little tabs on the pin, and then the pin pulls out of the connector. It is not fun, but once you understand how it works, it's definitely doable. You guys definitely will not be able to see what I'm doing, but I'll just run it real time real quick. So you can see that if you're struggling like I did for the evening, it is not that bad. All right, so it's popped to the bottom of the connector. Grab it with my needle nose pliers. Give her a little tug and it comes out. Now you can either use 2 depinning tools or just kind of go back and forth with one depin. Gonna wiggle it around until the pin comes out. Not fun, but like I said, man, it is doable. This is definitely the hardest part so far. All right, there we go. After that connector comes off, you do gotta pull off this little boot right here. And the reason we have to pull this off is because you need to get the top hats off. In order to get the top hats off, we gotta pass this wiring through that tiny little hole. So it has to be depinned, there's no other way. All right. There we go, wiring connectors depinned. Now the fun part, spring compressor. I just rented this guy from O'Reilly's, nice little unit. We're gonna compress the spring, and then this bottom perch mount, I guess you'd call it, slides up, and there will be a little ring, a little collar we need to remove. Now of course, this is like a grenade right now, so try to be careful. If this thing explodes on us, it's not fun. Spring is compressed, slid that guy up just a little bit. There is the ring that we need to remove. As soon as that is removed, this will slide down, giving us access to unscrew this from the shock shaft. Now the top little clevis, I don't really know what it's called, unscrews from the shock shaft. Wiring has to pass through this tiny hole. That's why we had to depin it. As soon as that guy's off, this little random washer comes off, top hat comes off, that comes off, and our freaking spring is now off. Oh man, that's a lot of work. Being that the new springs are a little bit shorter than the OEM springs, going back together is way easier than taking apart. All springs are mounted, and these guys are ready to go back on the car. All right, so we got all of the suspension back on the car. Fender liners are back in. Now all we need is our wheels, get her on the ground, go for a quick drive, and we can take some measurements. Yep, she's definitely quite a bit lower because I can't even get the arms for the lift out. All right, we got the car finally off the lift. Just had to use these little boards. Let's get her out from under the lift, pull it outside, and see how good this thing looks. I can already tell it looks so much better. The rear especially, it was pretty high from the factory, but now she is sitting just right. All right, we got the car outside on the ground. My dude and I are gonna go on a little drive, stack some miles on it, make sure it settles all the way, and see about some measurements. Before 5 inches rear, 3.75 front. Very curious what it's gonna be now. Now, two things that are very, very important that I need to see if they still work. First up was the magnetic suspension. It's not throwing any codes for the suspension, so that wiring connector that I thought I messed up earlier should be in the clear. Second of all, let's make sure the front lift still works. It says it's going up, it's going up, going up, going up. A little bit worried about the front lift just because there's all the air lines and whatnot. Let's see if it maxes out and gives us any codes. All right, she's full lift there. I'm super, super thankful that this car has the front lift option, because if it didn't, that would be very difficult to get her in the garage spot. All right, a couple miles later, she should be fully settled in. So here's how it looks out in the wilderness. Ride is definitely a little bit stiffer, nothing that I would complain about, but I must say, she's quite low. It does seem like everything is working fine. I'm not getting any sort of error codes on the dash or any of that. So like I said, that one wiring connector I thought I messed up, we should be in the clear. So the rear was supposed to drop 1.1 inches. Before it was 5 inches from the wheel to the fender, and it quite literally is 1.1 inches lower now. The front was supposed to drop 0.65. Before it was at 3.75, and now we're at just under 3. So it seems like the front dropped a little bit more than specified, but so far the rear dropped the 1.1. Nonetheless, I am very, very pleased with how this thing looks, with how it rides. Install was a little bit tricky with those wiring connectors, but it was well worth it. The only problem is I really wanted to add a carbon fiber front lip, but I don't see a way of it fitting. It'd be on the ground. If you want to pick up the exact springs that we just installed, I will go ahead and link them down below. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Does it look good or does it look like trash? It feels so weird working on Lambos in the garage. So weird, so bizarre. For reference, by the way, if you're wondering on the time it took me, if I was to do it again, it'd be 10 times as fast. But I started yesterday at around noon, and it is now 4 p.m. the following day. So I probably spent I would say I spent a good like 10, 11 working hours on this car, from trying to find spring compressors that would work to getting those wiring connectors depinned. It took a while. If I had to do it again, I could probably do it right now in about 4 hours, 3 hours.